So many people have done live streams in the past couple of years that people ended up wanting to become a streamer. And what's the first thing they do when they want to start live streaming? They do research. And what do they research of? The most common search term is how to use OBS Studio. And so they download it, and then the moment they enter OBS Studio, it's pretty much something very empty. That's when they realized, when they research a lot about streaming in OBS, that they need lots of plugins. So they have to download everything, and they have to do. I mean, I'm not complaining though. Like, OBS is an open source software, so wouldn't it be better if those plugins were just built into the software in the first place? And that is where Prism Live Studio comes in. You have seen me on this channel doing Prism Live Studio tutorials for majority of 75% of my videos are Prism Live Studio tutorials. That's because Prism Live Studio is actually a great software. Just imagine a copy of OBS, but it has built-in features of everything that you need to do live streaming. And this is gonna be a video on what is the difference between OBS Studio and Prism Live Studio, and what should I recommend you to use, and which do you prefer. Hello wonderful people, my name is PJ, helping you increase your knowledge in online media. So again, this is just gonna be a simple video. To be honest, I'm not gonna literally say in your face that you should use this or you should do that because you can do this and you can do that. This video is basically more on helping you increase your knowledge in online media. No, this is gonna be a video on what the difference between OBS Studio and what Prism Live Studio has. Another question of that is, what does Prism Live Studio has that OBS Studio doesn't? So let's get started with number one. Multi-streaming. Yes, I'm putting the most requested feature in OBS as the number one thing on Prism Live Studio, because for the longest time people have been wanting a multi-stream feature on OBS. OBS Studio cannot do that. You can only stream to one RTMP at a time. While in Prism Live Studio, you can multi-stream to everywhere, no matter how many channels you have. You can have it on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and then a custom R2MP address, all at the same time. The only issue with that is that you can't have like separate aspect ratio, so you can't have Facebook in 1080p while in Instagram it's gonna be a 1:1 square aspect ratio. You can't do that. It has to be the same. So number two is that Prism Live Studio has built-in plugins that you would normally need. Prism Live Studio has built-in plugins that you normally need in a live stream setup. In their video capture device on OBS, the only thing you can probably do is change the adjustment settings and then have like a chroma feature or a chroma key. Prism Live Studio, however, does other things. Instead of OBS where you manually place like your own background, your own effects and stuff, Prism Live Studio has everything there. You can basically set up a video capture device, and then if you have a green screen, you can set up a chroma key, and then it has the feature that you can change backgrounds on it. So they already have like stock photos if you want, and stock videos if you want. So you don't need to manually put them there if you really just need something. Another part is that it has smart background removal. So even if I don't have a green screen, Prism Live Studio can probably remove this background if they want to. Not only that, they can also, because they can also detect the background, you can also set up a blur effect background, so it's like a bokeh effect. So this background is gonna be blurry if you're on Prism Live Studio, and because of that, it may look like you are using a professional camera. Another feature that I would like to add that Prism Live Studio has but OBS Studio doesn't is like the audio. So of course OBS also has like audio plugins, the same, they both are the same, but the difference is Prism Live Studio can have like voice changers and stuff. Another part is like lower thirds. Prism Live Studio has lower thirds. You don't need to make manual stuff and pay a lot of graphic designers just to make some lower thirds and stuff, which is very amazing. You can add stickers. Not only that, we go back to the video capture. You can add like some filters on your face. You can also add like some little hats and stuff, you know, like that filters on Instagram. I don't know why OBS Studio doesn't have that, because literally almost every gamer live streamer does that. For me, I think the reason why OBS doesn't have that because they aren't fully focused on a gaming streamer perspective anymore. OBS Studio is probably focused now on being like a professional setup. So I think that's the reason why OBS implement those things. But I still wish they would implement that. And there are lots of instances where OBS actually implemented some plugins from the community. Like example, the virtual camera output. I think that's the only thing the Prism Live Studio doesn't have, but you can still implement the plugins because every plugin that works on OBS Studio also works on Prism Live Studio. So on the virtual output, you can just download the plugin itself and then just import it into Prism Live Studio and it'll still work. So the last thing is Prism Live Studio Mobile. It's probably the best thing they have ever made. Okay, Prism Live Studio Mobile, I've had I think 2 tutorials about that. So Prism Live Studio Mobile is a separate software. It's an application on your phone where you can live stream on your phone. And it has also lots of amazing features that I'm not gonna mention in this video because this isn't about Prism Live Studio Mobile. But the reason why I've mentioned Prism Live Studio Mobile because one, you can use the app Prism Live Studio Mobile to turn your phone into a camera. So when you live stream, if you don't have a professional camera setup or a webcam, you can just use your phone and use Prism Live Studio Mobile and use your phone as a webcam. And it's actually pretty simple to set up. Like in Prism Live Studio, you can just open a source that is Prism Live Studio Mobile and then a QR code comes up. And then you open up the app on your phone and just go on the Connect Live or the Connect and then just scan the QR code. Now you're gonna have 2 options there. One is again the webcam, the camera, which is you're gonna share your phone's camera to Prism Live Studio and then set it up as your webcam. The other thing is screen sharing, which I already made a video about that. Just like when you share your phone's camera on Prism Live Studio, the same thing goes for your screen where you're sharing your screen. So if you have games on your phone and you don't want to spend dollars on a capture card, you can use Prism Live Studio's screen sharing method. And it's not that huge of a delay, like you can hardly notice a delay. Probably the only reason if I get a delay here is because Philippines Wi-Fi suck. Either that or I just need a better router. So that's probably the reasons why I would choose Prism Live Studio over OBS. And what's probably the best of it all is that if you're already an OBS user and you have set up a lot of things and you don't want to remake them again in Prism Live Studio, well, you know that in OBS you can copy your scene collections, right? So that if anyone wants to copy your scenes or your scene collection or OBS setup, you can just send them that file and then when they open it in OBS, it does the same thing, it just copies it. You can do that in Prism Live Studio. So no worries there. So you can just export your scene collections on OBS and then import it into Prism Live Studio and all your work is gonna be there, no problem. Again, Prism Live Studio is basically a copy of OBS, so all of the settings are there. The only difference is it has all the features you need. Plus multi-streaming, which is everything that I ever need, especially in church live stream, because we want to implement church live stream on Facebook and YouTube. Because of OBS's limits, we can only stream on Facebook. So that's basically it as to why Prism Live Studio overpowers OBS. If you learned a lot from this video, leave a like and please subscribe though. I haven't uploaded for months because of 2 storms. And it also helps you get notified if I have new tutorials to cover. And ask questions below in the comments. I really love that. I love answering comments. If you have any questions regarding to this video or anything involved to Prism Live Studio or anything just online media in general, if you have requests on wanting me to make a tutorial about that, then I'm down for it. So thank you and goodbye, wonderful people. See you in the next video.